have you been since 2014 for you to not smell the stench that comes from the sargassum that the people of Soubise and Marquis have to live with day in, day out? Where have you been to not know that the fishermen of Soubise and Marquis have to walk through the sargassum every day to get onto and off their boats with their fish? Where have you been to not know that the sargassum is damaging the engines of the boats? Where have you been to not know that the sargassum is creating skin rashes to our fishermen and the people who go on the beach and have to wade through the sargassum?
Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. First, let me apologize for last week. We had some issues. We had to cut out a chunk of the program. I know I get cuts for it, and people telling me I owe them. And yesterday, we had some more technical issues, and so we couldn't come to you yesterday, but we're here today, ready to go. So grab your popcorn, grab your drink, grab your tablets, well, your pills, let me say pills. Grab your pills, grab your pen and your paper, grab your husband and your wife and your children, your auntie and your nenen. You know, everybody had to sit down to listen to Simon Says these days, okay? Things getting grimy, and we got to bring it to you guys. So everybody get ready. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hit the road.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. So, Cindy daughter, I thought it best to throw shades about some of us being quiet on the preliminary financial statement they put out on the Golden Jubilee National Organization Committee, the NOC. Now, Claudette Joseph, there is a saying, let sleeping dogs lie. Please get familiar with that statement. Let me read to you her. Do I need my glasses? Yes, I do. Her statement that she put on Facebook. And it says, the opposition and their surrogates made heavy weather of the cost of the celebrations for the 50th anniversary of independence. They suggested all kinds of mismanagement, even wrongdoing. Imagine that with their checkered record. Imagine that with their checkered record. The report has now been laid before the Parliament. It shows receipts of $13,963,437.68 and the payments of $13,687,548.02, and with a savings of $275,889.66. She said all of a sudden they've gone quiet. But first of all, I don't know who went quiet. And I am one of the ones who consistently asked about the funds, the $22.5 million, and the accountability of such funds, which we were promised by both the member for St. Patrick East and the Minister of Finance in the Parliament, and the leader of government business, Senator Adrian Thomas, in the upper house, the Senate. We were promised accountability. We never did get it. And so I'm guilty of that. But we didn't go quiet. I didn't go quiet because of this up statement put out by the NOC and the Ministry of Finance. I got quiet. I went on to talk on a lot of different things that, I mean, we've overloaded. We can't miss for anything to speak on with this government that have the country in chaos, right? So she then spoke here of, they suggested all kinds of mismanagement and wrongdoing. Imagine that with their checkered record, excuse me, whose record is checkered here now? I mean, come on, when you're talking about checkered records, go in deep into the NDC. And besides who's sitting as colleagues in the cabinet with you, and here you have it's alleged that you, Cinti daughter, have security company as well, you know. You, yes, all of you. Besides the crooks and con men sitting in your cabinet, right? Check out your boards and all of the institutions. All Zandoli came out of their holes once NDC came into office. It's like a magnet for crookedness, for corruption, right? Then she so she talked about the people with checkered record. You got to stay quiet. You got to stay quiet on that. So let's take this whole NOC report into perspective here. First of all, the statement given, or report rather, by the Golden Jubilee Secretariat, and by extension the government of Grenada, because it's coming from the Ministry of Finance, is a preliminary financial report. Preliminary. Now, preliminary meaning preceding or done in preparation for something fuller or more important. So they just give us this thing by the way, right? Preceding an audited statement. It says for the period of October 2023 to July 2024, to the 31st of July 2024. Not sure why, because we all know that the celebrations went up to the 31st of October 2024, when the celebrations actually ended. And so the statement missing a few months to start with, right? Now the report is unaudited. And let me show you here, because we got to keep this thing, you know, it says here, a preliminary financial report. You see that? Preliminary financial report, Golden Jubilee Secretariat, and for the period of October, the 1st of October 2023 to the 31st of July 2024, prepared by Ministry of Finance. Okay? You know, we got to have the facts. We got to have the facts. Now, let's get back to business here. Let's get back to business here. So now, as I said, the report is unaudited. An audited financial statement or process means it has undergone a systematic, independent examination to verify its accuracy, compliance with standards, and freedom from material misstatements. Therefore, an unaudited financial statement means that the accounts or financial data have not been revealed or verified by an independent external auditor, like a certified public accountant, a CPA. But why would the NOC, the government, why would they, when their sole intention is to cook the books? Since you cannot account for the $22.5 million allocated to the celebrations, you decide you're going to put out something there. And we, as usual, people supposed to just gullibly accept it. Sadly, though, whomever cooked the books did not do a very good job of doing so. It was very poorly done. Now, lest we forget, in the 2023 supplemental budget in August of 2023, according to Starboy, the leader of government business in the Senate, Senator Adrian Persuader Thomas, $7.5 million was allocated towards the beginning of the celebration to commence in October 2023. Chair.
Madam President, under the Ministerial, in the Prime Minister's office, we are prepared to take on a very important venture. 50 years as an independent nation. And we would not allow this 50th anniversary of independence to go as it usually goes, with our official ceremony for a couple hours on the 7th of February. Our intention, Madam President, is to make and mark this Jubilee celebration not for a day, but for 14 months, where the people can feel part and parcel of this Jubilee celebration. And we're going to launch this celebration, Madam President, next month. We're going to launch it. And there is no need for any citizen to feel left out because they don't like going to the stadium or they don't like going to see parade. There will be activities, Madam President, where every single Grenadian can identify themselves with one or two, and so they could be part and parcel of the celebration. And because of the new grounds we want to venture into, culture, sports, you name it, we're going to make sure that we have activities where Grenadians can participate, home and abroad. And I can say, Madam President, from the time we said 1 year celebration, people in the diaspora has been calling and asking questions. As a matter of fact, some of them booked their flights already for the 7th of February. But I say to some of them, the 7th of February will only be 2 months in the celebration. So you may have to come now again. And so, Madam President, a budget of $7.5 million is allocated to this very important activity. Allocated. And I want to say allocated because the working committee that we have in place, they are in the process of planning and giving the details of what those activities will be like. And we want to make no mistake to come back to this house again when we get the details of the planning. One may argue the question, well, why you didn't do the detail first? Yes, we could have done that. But Madam President, we believe that if the fact that it was not done does not mean that we cannot cater for it. So we're going to allocate $7.5 million to this program. And also, I want to tell this House that this administration is a very accountable administration. And it will not be anything flying by in terms of abusing the $7.5 million. We will make sure that every cent is well accounted for.
Then in the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure, the 2024 budget, an allocation of 15 million was announced by the Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall.
The 50th Jubilee Independence Celebration. Mr. Speaker, cheers to 50 years as our independent nation. We have a lot to be thankful for. The launch of our year-long 50th Jubilee Independence celebrations was nothing short of amazing. Our rich history, heritage, and the remarkable resilience of our people were brilliantly on display. As was the case of our premier cultural and creative industry symposium, Unleash, this administration unleashed and unveiled the creative energies of our people to rise above the ordinary and soar to greater heights. Mr. Speaker, the rest of the celebration holds great promises as we commemorate the past 50 years and embrace the next 50. The year-long celebrations, which is expected to have significant economic spill-off, should cost approximately $15 million, covering events and commemorative activities that will mark the significant milestone in our history. Some of the major events and activities we look forward to: the issuance of a 50th anniversary independence commemorative EC $50 note, the renaming of our national landmarks, the introduction of teaching of Grenadian history in our schools, the hosting of 21 events and 7 parish celebrations, including launch of the school mobile museum, Independence Monarch semifinals and finals, National Round Island Flag and Relay and Parish Sports, gospel concerts and worship, Pan on the Caribbean Food Fest, National Sports Awards, the Governor General Gala, the St. Paul Independence and Extravaganza and Independence Expo Music Festival. An amount of $7 million is allocated to cover costs falling during 2024, Mr. Speaker. At the end of the celebrations, we'll undertake an economic impact assessment and publish the results.
Now, in answer to one of the questions asked by His Majesty Opposition, the leader of the opposition, in the lower house, the Minister of Finance, to the Clerk of Parliament, 1 out of 9 questions, well, 1 question, 9 parts, should I say. And the question was, what was the budget provided to the NOC? Now, the Minister of Finance, in answering to the Clerk of Parliament, in reference made to your memorandum dated March the 8th, 2024, captioned, questions to be asked in the House of Representatives. And I wish to respond with the following status update as of April 9th, 2024. The question: what was the budget provided for the NOC? The answer: the allocation for the independence celebration, as stated last year in the budget speech, was 15 million. Listen closely. The celebration began with the launch on October 31st, 2023, and will continue throughout 2024. The allocation for 2023 was 7.5 million, and the allocation for 2024 was 7.5 million. Now, what the Minister of Finance is saying here is that the 15 million you heard him mention in that clip I just played, it was a total of 7.5 million that the leader of government spoke of, and he it's given now on paper here another 7.5 million for the general. So imagine you give 7.5 million for 3 months, October, November, December of 2023. And then you allocated 7.5 million for January to October 2024. This is what he's trying to tell us here now. So somewhere along the line, they drop off the 7.5 million. In this answer on paper, he said, to conclude, this allocation is provided to the NOC as the leading entity responsible for the execution of the various components of the celebrations. Now, you said clearly in the 2024 budget, the allocation was 15 million. And the leader of government business said clearly in the supplemental budget, 7.5 million was allocated for the first 3 months, the beginning of the celebration. So the deception started right there on paper. However, in Parliament, in person, the Minister of Finance, the same Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall, when asked the same question by the leader of His Majesty opposition and made to answer by the president of what he is again? The Speaker of the House. Okay, let me go. Speaker of the House. However, in Parliament, in person, the Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall, the same Minister of Finance who tried to answer us on paper and said it's 15 million total, that same minister, when asked the question by the leader of government business in the Parliament and made to answer by the Speaker of the House, this is what he had to say.
Mr. Speaker, therefore, I stand to ask, but before I say this, really it was one question I asked. It was just several parts. As you can see, they're all correlated. So really, I just stand to ask the one question standing in my name. It's just several parts. It should have been A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. To the Honorable Minister of Finance, I just note that 2 parts were not allowed, but Mr. Speaker and I would speak about this accordingly.
So, Honorable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to indicate that I have acknowledged receipt of those questions, 9 subsection of those principal questions. I must also say that the National Organization Committee was the committee charged with undertaking the activities for the national independence as well as the parish activities that is now ongoing. Some of the questions I will not be able to answer them immediately because they will require that all the activities be conducted and an audited financial statement of the event would need to be put in place before I can give you an answer that is going to be authentic, because I would not want to put my foot in my mouth at this point in time to make statements that are not factual because I don't have the data. However, I have communicated with the National Organization Committee to provide me with most of the answers that are available at this point in time. So I will wait until I get a feedback from that organization with questions that I've given them so that I'll be able to at least report to this Honorable House. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Minister for Finance. But I want to urge that the answers to the question be provided by the committee to the Honorable Leader of His Majesty Opposition before the next sitting of this Parliament. Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, with due respect to the Honourable Member, I understand the point that's been made, but if the member looks carefully, the first question said what was the actual budget provided to the National Organization Committee. It didn't talk about, that portion didn't talk about what they spent and what is accounted for. It asked for what is the budget that was provided, and the government and the ministry ought to have that number. People can't get money without the initiative of the resources available to it. So, Mr. Speaker, just to make a point on this one, there are other parts that could, of course, be answered too, but I just make a general point. I appreciate if the minister did not have the information, all the information, then it was provided at a later date, and that's okay with me because it's happened before in this House. But that question does not call for any auditing of reports.
Honourable Minister for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, with reference to the subsection, the question was asked about the budget that has been provided for the independents. It's no secret because it's a public information that sometime in September of last year, we came to the House with a supplementary estimate to the amount of $7.5 million for the carnival activities. We said that this was needed to provide for activities that would have actually been needed prior to the independence itself. And again, in this Honourable House, Mr. Speaker, we did pass a budget that included the sum of $15 million for the independence celebration. If I should add both of them together, I think it works out to be about $22.5 million.
So he said it's no secret. It's public information. He gave his rough calculations. It's simple calculations. 7.5 million in the supplementary budget in 2023 and 15 million in the 2024 budget. He totaled it himself. The same Minister of Finance. He totaled it to being $22.5 million. When the question was put to them, what is the budget allocated for the NOC? Coming from the opposition leader, what was the budget? And the budget allocated was $22.5 million. Now, according to the unaudited preliminary statement report, and let's hope we would eventually receive an audited report. We're not going to put the report on fire because we understand how it goes with them, right? They had a spreadsheet, and according to the spreadsheet, right, they're saying that the government, the central government, gave them 12,660,600, right? The government, central government, gave them $12,660,600. However, according to the government of Grenada, the estimates of revenue and expenditure, and this is what we have to take from. We're not going to take figures from an unaudited preliminary report from the NOC. No, we're not, because we know who was heading the NOC. We knew who was heading the NOC, right? So we're not taking them figures there. So according to the estimates of revenue and expenditure, 2025. The 50th anniversary independence celebration. The actual 5,581,156 was spent, right, under capital expenditure. So make your notes. $5,581,156 was spent under capital expenditure. $6,750,000 was spent on the recurrent expenditure. Now, when you add those two together, you get a total of $12,331,156. And that is the amount according to the estimates of revenue and expenditure. 2025, 12,331,000, right? $156. Now, let's forget the amount the financial report give us, the unaudited financial report, and replace it with, so we're replacing the $12,660,600 that they say they received with the $12,331,156. The total receipts, according to their spreadsheet, the cooked up figures, was $13,963,437. And that is also the quotation that Cynthia daughter gave in her rude little post. Now, according to the budget actual and the capital expenditure, along with the other receipts, total, the revenues are $13,663,993.68, right? Further to that, according to the spreadsheet, payments and the payments, that's money spent, it's $13,687,548. The same amount quoted by Cynthia daughter in her little post. Now, only Cynthia daughter and the Golden Jubilee Secretariat got a net receipt surplus. That is the $275,000 she spoke of. Well, almost 276 because it's 888,000, right? Extra. And according to the figure from the budget, when added to the receipts and subtracted from the total payments. So remember, according to the budget, it was less. It was less, right? And then when we added to all the other receipts payments, and we subtracted from the total, we end up with a deficit. A deficit of $53,554. So something wrong with the kukarapa of the books. Ain't happening. So they ended up with a deficit. Now, a few things caught my attention as well. Besides the book and cook right, everything on the spreadsheet ended up jumbled up. They jumble up things so we don't know what is for what anymore. You haven't seen like the metal works and the electricity, the electrical work, the lights and all of that as how they gave, the few that they gave earlier, how they separated it, right? The drones and the fireworks. Well, they separated those and those were different figures as well. Also, there was that $500,000 that was missing from the cookie jar. And that came from inside. That's not no makeup figure. We ain't hear nothing about the 500,000. Where is that money? Right? It is alleged. That $500,000 was allegedly linked to Orlando Romain, according to the sources from right up inside the cabinet, right up in there. Then you heard the list read out by the Minister of Finance. You heard that list. It was a long list. We haven't heard of the monies for the $50 note. How much did that cost? The National Sports Award, the Governor General Gala, the St. Paul's Extravaganza, Independence Expo Musical Festival, the introduction of teaching history in schools, the hosting of the Independent Monarch semifinals and finals, launch of the school mobile museum, National Round the Island Relay and Sports Paris Sports Meet, Pan on the Carronage and Food Fest. What about folk in the city? We know that Uncle Ricky got paid for that already. That was in his payment. Where the actual spending for the event and the payment of the persons who took part, right? What about the making of the theme song? 22 vocalists was paid. 22, and we had to pay director and what about that? We hear nothing about these things. The hosting of the 21 events and the 7 parish celebrations. What about all those? Huh? And then they want us to believe that they only spend in excess of $13 million. Then I am Princess Diana. Right? What about the executive directors? Because we heard of Tua. Orlando Romain was supposed to be the executive director. Somewhere along the line, his brother was named executive director. And the girlfriend and his girlfriend, who was the social media executive, and had her own little money chest, paying out staff. She paid, what about all those monies? Where on the spreadsheet are we supposed to find these monies? You really believe Grenadians are stupid and continue to try to take us for fools? You gave up a cooked up, unaudited report and then boasting about it. Let sleeping dogs lie, Cinty daughter. No one. We didn't take that for gospel, but we're just busy dealing with other crooked things that are coming from your administration. We know the books was doctored, and we also know we'll never know where the $22.5 million went. If you only spent in excess of 13 million, then tell us. I did tell you all, I believe more than 500,000 was missing, you know. Did tell you all that. Tell us where the rest of the 22, the balance, went. Some say it's campaign money. It's gone in the bag for the campaign. And while you're at it, please tell us about the money laundering taking place in the ministry of MIT under the minister Andy Williams and his first cousin as his permanent secretary, Nicole Phillip and Miss Dawn Horsford. Now, speaking of Andy Williams, the thing not looking good on the Cliff project at all. So let's say what we know for a fact. We know that the minister Andy Williams, acting in his capacity as Prime Minister and Minister of Infrastructure, while Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell was on one of his trips in the clouds, took a bribe of $100,000 cash in hand and a $15,000 to fix up his pickup truck in exchange for the contract to do the Cliff Road project with Nelson Louison of CCCCI. We know that for a fact. And whether the Prime Minister think he'll turn a blind eye and play dead and he won't go away, we know that Minister Andy Williams took a bribe of $115,000 in exchange for the contract in the Cliff Road project. So we put that one aside. We also know that the Prime Minister did not want to use that said contractor on that project. But he was in the clouds. And the acting Prime Minister, in his capacity, and he damn right, went behind his back and signed the contract. We also know for a fact, in order to seal the deal with the Ministry of Infrastructure, the contractor cut the job by $2 million, people. Not 2,000, not 200,000, by $2 million. Now, who does that? If you can cut a contract by $2 million, then it's either you raise the price in order to thief the government, and so you just throw it off when things got sticky and grimy, or you cut yourself short just to get the work. Then how are you going to do the job? Less $2 million. $2 million is not candy money. Okay? $2 million. Now, we've heard one of the spokesperson for the job in the news saying they're only 2 months behind because the Prime Minister himself, he's angry now. The job is, the project is taking too long, they're behind time, and he's given them a mandate. He's given them a demand. He's demanding from them that they do the job, or else step it up, step it up. So what we understand is that the job is not 2 months behind, but 8 months behind, rather. There are 8, and it's obvious. If you pass and you look at what is happening there, you can see that's not 2 months behind, because the job itself was supposed to take 8 months, I believe, initially. I stand to be corrected. Listen to this news clipping, compliments GBN.
A concrete mixer on the Consolidated Contractors Company Caribbean Inc. CCCCI construction site crashed into a home along the Woburn Cliff Road project site just after 1 p.m. on Monday. The impact has caused significant damage to the concrete structure, while a woman who is said to have been the lone occupant at the time was reportedly rushed to the St. George's General Hospital for medical observation. Her condition remains unknown at this time. When our news team arrived on the scene, CCCCI workers were actively using heavy machinery to remove the concrete mixer, which had torn through a section of what appears to be a two-story home. When questioned about the incident, CCCCI officials declined to comment, directing our news team instead to longtime employee Neville Thomas, who was operating the concrete mixer at the time of the accident.
So we got to mix concrete this morning, but the inspector tell us don't mix no concrete, but the engineer he willing, he say go and mix, I leave and I come up. When I reach, I put all this stuff, I put cement, everything already, reverse to take the water, I go up on top, I full all them two tank on the side. When to put water inside the concrete, it was me alone, so I also jump down and jump up. So when I come down to take off the water, the truck just pick up at speed. I couldn't go do nothing to say to go and hold it back. I couldn't tell you, you're already going across the road already. And she keep going down below the road there, so I couldn't do nothing to it. When the truck stopped, she come up. She come up from where she was in the kitchen. So she said she see the thing coming down, so she go and jam herself in a corner. So when the truck stopped now, that when she come outside, she come pass in front of the truck and come out.
After nearly 2 hours of work, crews successfully removed the concrete mixer from the home just after 3 p.m. Authorities have yet to determine the cause of the crash, and investigations are ongoing. GBN has reached out to MP for the area, Minister Andy Williams, for a reaction to the incident. However, all efforts today have proven futile. We'll bring you more details as this story develops. Stay with us for more updates. Reporting for GBN News, I am Nisha Paul.
No, this thing is as if you're there in school and you have a concert and you put a little play together. I ain't even calling it a movie. Jump up, jump down, jump up, put water. The lady running a corner in the kitchen, and the lady after, there's a news clipping after that says that was not true. She never tell nobody that. That's not true. The lady herself. Now, another fact is that car mix, and that's the proper name for the piece of heavy equipment, is the same piece of equipment that murdered the young man on the True Blue Road project. The same piece of equipment that crushed the young man to death on the True Blue Road project. And now almost took the lives of two persons at least. The operator and the woman inside her home. Let me share with you what I found out about the operations of that car mix, that piece of heavy equipment. The car mix is a concrete mixer on a vehicle, so on a truck. So where the regular concrete truck, in places where the regular concrete truck cannot access the project, this car mix can do so, right? It has two sets of controls, one set inside and one set outside. The control on the inside is to operate the vehicle, and the controls on the outside is to operate the mixer. Usually, the mixer requires two persons to operate it, two persons to operate the car mix. The main operator and a help. The help is the person who's supposed to be pouring the water inside and whatever needs to be poured, and so that gentleman, who's the operator of the mixer, so don't have to jump up and jump down. Right? So the operator, as he said, when he jumped up and he jumped down, the car mixer started to move. He can't block it. He can't stop it from moving. In both instances, the vehicle, and I'm speaking about the True Blue instance and the Cliff instance, the vehicle was operated by one person. In True Blue, this gentleman who spoke there was missing in action. And so the help was operating the vehicle, who he's not experienced in doing so. He's just a help to pour the water. And so he killed himself. And now the help dead, and I guess they didn't get another help because things tight. If you cut a project by $2 million, you can't afford to pay staff and all of that. So now the operator alone is operating it, jumping up and jumping down, with people's lives endangered, jumping up and jumping down. Thank God, no one else lost their lives. If you look at this video here, you can see where the car mix is being removed. Totally destroyed the house, or the top floor, I should say, of the house. Folks, lest we forget, that piece of heavy equipment was impounded and in custody of the Royal Grenada Police Force. The question remains how it ended up on the True Blue Road to crush the young man to death. Who gave the authority? Because when it killed the young man, it was still uninsured and unlicensed when it ended up on the True Blue Road and killed the young man. To date, I'm not sure if when it crushed and bulldozed that house, if it was licensed and insured. But what the question I asked time and time again, who gave the authorization that it was removed from police custody and ended up on the road and caused the death of a young man? We await that answer. Everything is being ignored and they're just moving on, and people are just happy. Oh, the Prime Minister doing thing, man. The best Prime Minister ever. And notice when they speak, the surrogates, the members, the supporters, they speak only of the Prime Minister. We have let go our entire country to a novice. One man, only one man in the movie, and he's a novice. And then they expect us to vote And it's worse now, you know. At least in the 2022 election, they were talking about the team because most of you didn't know that they're not capable. I told you so since before the election because I know most of them from before. If you can't even perform your duties in the executive of the party, the NOC, the National Executive Committee, NEC, if you cannot perform your task in your duties there and in your branches, in your communities, how are you running a country? How are you performing at the ministerial level? They couldn't do the job. And they were all novice, all, right? Now this runs, if you notice, all you're seeing, all you're hearing is the Prime Minister. I saw a flyer revitalizing agriculture. And the person posing it in that flyer was the Prime Minister. Where is the Minister of Agriculture? Where is the Minister of Agriculture? So we are supposed to vote one person back into office. One person to run our country, who, by the way, spend most of his time out of the country. All you play, sit down there and play Ring a Roses and don't pay attention. Moving right along, folks, this is a Minister, David Andrew, in the Senate budget debate.
Because people keep saying stuff and you can't tell where they got it from, inventing the narratives and discussing it in this honorable house. This cannot stand. You can't just invent stuff and bring it inside this honorable house and expect to try to deal with it and waste the people's time and try to confuse people and try to mislead people. A lot of that is going on, and this needs to stop in this honorable house. Madam President, I listened to the talk about this administration promising 500 homes a year and 500 homes a month, and people suggesting how many homes we should deliver in what time. I, at no point, heard or saw written anything about 500 homes a year, a month, or anything of that sort. Instead, I know we said that we had a Project 500 that we were going to roll out nationally. That program is currently underway. And you see, people want to give us timelines. You see, I think there is a penchant on the other side, both in this place here and on the other place, to tell people when to do what to do. Pay it now! Pay it right now! Pay it immediately! Right, so I'm hearing a certain sentiment coming from that side that tells us when to build the houses. Right? Yeah, they want to tell us when to do it. But you see, we have to remember. So I heard the suggestion coming from the honorable member that if we build 100 solid homes a year, then we'll be quite fine.
No, Mr. Minister. Nobody telling you all when to do things. The reason why we could come back at you is because you all love to give timeline. 12 months regularization. By the stroke of a pen, you can change this. Your Prime Minister, your beloved Prime Minister is the one, and we're going to come to that, that said 500 houses a year. And the first year was in the 2023 budget, where he allocated $2.5 million towards the first 500 houses. But we'll come to that. We'll come to that. You see, time is catching up with you guys. So you are beginning to deny your own promises. Or maybe early dementia is stepping in. Your arrogance has preceded you guys. your arrogance. If you haven't heard timeline for Project 500, Mr. Andrew, then it must be that you were not paying attention. But all the arrogance you come with there, can't help, can't help. Has Deacon Mitchell, as political leader of the NDC, before becoming Prime Minister on Project 500,
The National Democratic Congress has outlined the party's plans to address the country's housing issue if given the chance to govern Grenada following the June 23rd general elections. Political leader of the NDC, Deacon Mitchell, says under his leadership, housing materials will not be dropped off for people in need to be left without being used by the homeowner because the individual or family does not have the capacity to get the repairs done. He said instead people will be assisted with home repairs, especially the elderly and disabled.
Starting with the homes of our retirees, the homes of our senior citizens, and the homes of our disadvantaged persons, particularly persons who may be physically or mentally challenged. The next category of persons will then be particularly single mothers who are raising children on their own.
The NDC Mitchell said their priority will be increasing and improving the housing stock.
We are aiming to construct 2,500 homes. The homes will be made available for sale. The price ranges will vary depending on the size of the houses. The plans for the houses will be designed in such a way that they can be scaled up.
He said the NDC plan is to ensure that in the case of new houses constructed, there will be supporting facilities and amenities to create a proper village.
But ensuring that there are things like playgrounds for our children.
$2,500 homes, because he said that it was 500 homes a year. He said it. 2,500 homes this week. Give us what? 500 homes a year. Right? Then, on becoming Prime Minister, as Minister of Finance, delivering in his 2023 budget presentation, this is what he had to say on Project 500.
Commitment to affordable housing. Our commitment in this term, Mr. Speaker, is to deliver 500 high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style houses. Two major initiatives in this budget cycle include: one, the Stony Gut Climate Resilient Housing Development Pilot Project, which aims to construct modern, high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style homes in Stony Gut in the parish of St. John. Construction is expected to start in 2023, Mr. Speaker, and $2.5 million has been budgeted. Mr. Speaker, government will identify and secure lands in all parishes to roll out these houses. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, we have allocated $2.4 million to retrofit and upgrade the affordable houses that have been graciously donated by the People's Republic.
In this term, he said, in that budget cycle. Now, a budget cycle is for what? I know you are going overboard now. A year and a quarter, just now it might be a year and a half. But a budget cycle is for a year, right? In this cycle, in this term, he said, we allocated 2.5 million, Mr. Andrew, for 500 houses in Stony Gut, St. John. Did you hear him? Did you hear this clip? On the NDC administration in office, in a town hall meeting, I believe it was in St. Patrick. I stand to be corrected on that as well, but I believe it's St. Patrick. However, at that town hall, the Prime Minister's Project 500 of Grenadian-style houses went through metamorphosis and became prefab houses to be built in Dunfermline, St. Andrew.
We recognize that housing is a big challenge in Grenada. There is a current housing repair program that the government is running to assist persons in housing repairs. But this program has its challenges and it has its limitations. But we are nonetheless going to continue because we recognize that in some instances people are in truly desperate circumstances and we need to cater to them. But the program is not sustainable. And in the long run, it isn't really improving the housing stock in a sustainable manner. The average person builds a home once in their lifetime, for the most part. Maybe twice if you have an extended, if you go past the 70. And we need to build homes that can sustain, endure, and resist things like the hurricanes, resist things like termites, etc., etc. So, I can't see the screen from here, so I'm not so sure if you have the right. So, we promised Project 500, and we intend to deliver Project 500. What we need to do with these contractors is to use technology, modern technology, that can allow us to do prefab houses. That is, houses that are actually built or manufactured as much as possible in factories, and then what you're doing is you are installing the homes. So we would build the foundations, but you are literally installing the homes, installing the plumbing, installing the electricity and the other amenities. What that should allow is for a much more rapid, I'm going to use the word installation of the homes, in a shorter space of time, where you can then do a lot of houses quickly and hopefully cheaply.
So he realized he can't afford to do 500 houses a year, Grenadian-style homes. It spoke of initially swimming pool and all, you know, right? And that wasn't an effort to sort of condemn the Chinese-built houses when he said it. Then, Grenadian-style houses, right? He said, this last clip you heard him, they promised 500 houses and they will deliver Project 500. No, because you said initially that you were going to deliver 2,500 with 500 a year. Now you're almost 3 years behind. So you're already missing at least 1,000 houses. So let's say 1,250 houses. We're missing already, right? No, Grenadian-style homes became prefab. I don't know when that happened. That Grenadian-style houses became prefab. Because why? They're cheaper and faster because you're trying to catch up. You're trying to catch up. So we're going to do prefab instead. Let's go. Bring them in boxes and bolt them up. You see what has happened when wind blow hard in Florida? You see what has happened when wind blow too hard? Like cardboard in the streets. The whole thing, everything tumbling, everything. But Grenadian-style houses became prefab. Now, then in 2024, estimates of revenue and expenditure. The new Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall, had an allocation in there for Project 500 again. Granted, it was more than what was allocated before by the Prime Minister in the 2023 budget presentation. The Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall, in his 2024 budget presentation, again spoke of Project 500.
Area of housing. Project 500, Mr. Speaker, this flagship housing program will support the construction of 500 Grenada-style houses through leveraging private partnership. The Cabinet has given Housing Authority of Grenada the mandate to drive this program. An allocation of $9 million is provided for the acceleration of this program in 2024.
So we've heard the Minister of Finance there again In that cycle, allocating for another 500 houses. But Minister Andrew didn't hear the timeline. He didn't hear about timeline, right? Because I guess he wanted to hear timeline. He is the Minister of Education, huh? No? He is the Minister of Education. But he ain't hearing. He needs everything to be spelled out to him. A, B, C, D. He's the Minister of Education. Now again, here is the Project 500 that the Minister of Finances spoke of before. And this Minister of Finance boasted in the 2024 and the 2025 budget that it's well on its way. So the chairman of the board, the Housing Authority Board, told us that they were going to do 17 houses at Dunfermline. So now Project 500 became Project 17, right? And they're prefab houses. Now you see in that video anything that's well on its way. Have you seen anything there that you can say it's well on its way? We have not seen a semblance of one house. But as I was told by a contractor, the government wants to give them $80,000, which includes material. And they have to purchase a material out of that $80,000 and pay workers everything for $80,000. Meanwhile, men changing check for MIT and dropping back cash there. And then they're giving them like a 10,000 and 15,000 to build Build Back Better houses. You guys are not serious. Real chaos, real manje popot, real kukute to run our country. What is this? Who are these people? Who are these people? So the Project 500, Mr. Andrew, is now Project 17, and we're going into the third year, almost there, and not one out of the Project 500 houses we can say that we have to show. Not one. Spoken about before coming into office, announced in the first budget presentation in 2023. Not one house out of the 500 a year. Not one. You could get arrogant, you could jump high, you could jump low. You guys ain't ready yet. It's a puff government all you have. A real puff government. And so, Mr. Andrew, if you're not paying attention, I don't expect you to speak on the topic. And therefore, Mr. Andrew, you the one misleading the people from the upper house. You should get your facts before trying to speak with arrogance and authority. We'll take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. Hope you top up your popcorn and your drink and ding. On Friday, the 20th March, the newly refurbished Royal Grenadier Police Force, the RGPF, headquarters on the Carronade St. George's officially opened its doors with the usual ribbon cutting, military parade, speeches, the works. I said it before, and I'll say it again. The headquarters sits beautifully on the Carronade. Very nice indeed. Now, one of the speakers at the function, independent member of Parliament for the town of St. George, Peter David, kicking off his speech, he had this to say when addressing it to the former COP, James Clarkson, who gave presentation before he did.
And thank you, Brother Clarkson. You missed out one thing that you did that I found was good. The name then was the Grenada Police Service. And I think it's something that was commendable, and I want to thank you as Commissioner then, as indicated by the Chair, for that, because I think it's a good reflection of what the police service should be about.
Now, the member was referring to a time when the People's Revolutionary Government, the PRG, was in office, when they ruled, and our Constitution was suspended. The PRG did their ruling outside of the law, and we all know that. They ruled Grenada outside of the Constitution of the country. The Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, of course, we know, monkey see, monkey do. They're just there going along on the backs of people, of parties. Anything NMP do, they had to do it too. He had a man make his statement, he had to join into it, join on, right? And we know of his obsession with the Morris Bishop era. So he liked what he heard and openly voiced his agreement to the pronouncement made by the member for the town of St. George.
Former commissioners of police, commissioner of police, deputy, assistant, and other senior members of the management team of the Royal Grenada Police Service, and I agree that service should really be in the name of this institution rather than force, for obvious reasons. And if it was changed before, which I was not aware of, and I'm happy for the history lessons, then I see no reason, Commissioner, why you and the management team should not make the recommendation to change the name. So there's one thing I agree with the Member of Parliament for the town of St. George on, but I see he's already pulled the disappearing act.
Well, you know, he couldn't miss a moment to throw shades at the member for the town of St. George, right? But then to it's correct. The member for the town always moving around like fowl that looking to lay somewhere. So, of course, after the demise of the revolution and the invasion of the United States of America, the Constitution was reinstated and the police service was dropped and the police force was also reinstated because we're now going by the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. In section 18 of the Constitution, the supreme law of this land, it reads, and that is subsection 1, is the interpretation section of chapter 1. It reads, in this chapter, unless the context otherwise requires contravention in relation to any requirement, includes a failure to comply with that requirement, and cognate expressions shall be construed accordingly. Court means court of law having jurisdiction in Grenada, other than a court established by the disciplinary law, and includes Her Majesty in council, and in section 2 and 4 on this constitution, a court established by disciplinary law. Disciplinary law means law regulating the discipline of any discipline force. Discipline force means a naval, military, or an force, a police force, or a prison service. Police force or prison service, as stated in the Constitution. Now, the Prime Minister went on to use the phrase Royal Grenada Police Service 6 times during his speech. Here is him using it a couple of times.
We are committed to ensuring that we invest in the institution that is the Royal Grenada Police Service. But it's not just the police headquarters. If we look around Grenada, we would appreciate that many of the police stations are located in historic relics. And in many instances, the buildings are very old, not fit in many instances for any purpose, much less policing. And so this is simply the start of what is required to transform the entire infrastructure of all police stations to become modern, fit-for-purpose buildings. We are committed to ensuring that we work strategically with the RGPS to make sure that happens. And in doing so, we are committed to also investing in the technology and the tools that is required to make sure that policing reflects the modern society that we live in.
Publicly, to the world, in front of scores of members of the RGPF, the Royal Grenada Police Force, according to the Constitution. Policemen of all ranks, men and women, should I say, of all ranks. I noticed a senior member of the force shaking his head on hearing the Prime Minister repeating service, police service over and over. That reminds me of in the campaign, and shortly after when they continue to say Kuti Matni, Carriacou and Grenada, when it is the state of Grenada, just going, just ruthless, rogue, right? While he encouraged the COP to make the recommendation to change the name. I guess we will have a referendum soon. Because to change the name, we have to amend the Constitution. To amend the Constitution, we have to call a referendum, right? Now, you might have noticed, I've been saying during this little segment of the RGPS COP throughout. Now, this piece of me using the COP, it can either go for Chief of Police or Commissioner of Police. So COP is correct. Now, I say this because we've been saying Commissioner of Police. And after going through the Constitution, Section 89, which establishes a police force that is managed by a chief of police, and by extension, the Public Service Commission, which appoints and disciplines senior officers of the force. Now, according to the Constitution, the chief of police is the highest rank in the police force. Therefore, the law cannot change that. Section 89 reads, subsection 1, subject to the provisions of Section 91 of the Constitution, the power to appoint a person to hold or act in the office of the chief of police, and the power to remove the chief of police from the office shall vest in the Governor General, acting in accordance with the advice of the Public Service Commission, provided that before the Public Service Commission tenders advice to the Governor General with respect to the appointment of any to hold the office of Chief of Police, the Commissioner shall consult with the Prime Minister. And if the Prime Minister signifies his objection to the appointment of any person of the office, the commission shall not advise the Governor General to appoint that person. Now, throughout the Section 89, right down to subsection 5, and you can pull it up, anybody can Google it, Section 89, all mentioned was Chief of Police. Nowhere in the Constitution have I seen Commissioner of Police. Nor can anyone explain to me, which I tried to find out, how did we get to calling the Chief of Police Commissioner of Police? No one could explain how. I'm assuming that it happened then as well during the PRG's reign and their rule, and it just never went back. The police force, they never went back to the Chief of Police. How or why, I have no idea. And so Simon Says, at this point, congratulates the Royal Grenada Police Force on their newly renovated and not newly constructed, as is being posted in GIS. It's newly renovated, right? Their newly renovated headquarters, their new home, and by extension, I congratulate the government of Grenada. Well done. Well done. And we're moving right along. We're moving right along. Daisy trying to get in the action. Daisy, we're going to move on to the oil and gas. And that has been a very sticky topic for Canadians for a long time. And most people believe that if in fact we have oil and gas, if in fact any government, our government, any government in office, were able to deliver oil and gas to the people, we would be in a better place. Is that so? I'm not sure. But oil and gas continues to be a confusion in the minds of the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martin. On Wednesday, the 26th of March, 2025, NDC supporters was corralled at the Trade Center and was gas lighted on the oil and the gas issue. As I watched from my screen at home, I was flabbergasted by what I've heard, by some of the pronouncements made by the chairman of the Technical Working Group, Nazim Burke. That group, together by the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, to help find the documents or to investigate rather into the disappearance of the documents pertaining to our oil and gas. We all can attest to that. This we got wind of when an announcement was made in the throne speech, the 2023 throne speech, directed by the Prime Minister and his cabinet and made by the Governor General. They couldn't find the documents.
As of today, we are yet to solve the mystery of Grenada's offshore oil and gas reserves. Very little records can be found anywhere within the government, and our technocrats within the ministries and departments have very little information on this matter. This situation is untenable and completely unacceptable, and my government is committed to doing all within its power to unearth the mystery of Grenada's oil and gas status.
Now here's the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, on the subject matter at hand.
Minister Bowen was Minister for Energy for a long time. If they know where the files are, then they can certainly, in the public interest, direct the technocrats at the public, at the various ministries where the files can be obtained, so that they can provide the files to us. I'll challenge the opposition leader. If he says he knows where the file is, ask him if his colleague ministers know where the files are. Right? If they know where the files are, then either them or him can publicly indicate where the files are, where they've been stored, and how the files can be accessed, and indicate that to the public servants so that they can tell us. So when I say to you, we have written transition reports from every ministry. Oil and gas was not mentioned in a single report.
Now, you've heard him. They had transcripts from every ministry, and not a single one of them mentioned anything about oil and gas. They saw no documents in the ministry pertaining to oil and gas. Had the poor Gigi sweating to mention that there was nothing but oil and gas, right? You heard him in the ministerial complex. He asked that if the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, the leader of His Majesty Opposition, or any member of his team know of anywhere they could find the documents, please come in and help them find the documents. Now, at the town hall on Wednesday, the 26th March, where the NDC supporters was corralled into the trade center to be told about our oil and gas, right? The chairman of the Technical Working Group, at the beginning of his presentation, expressed his appreciation to the Prime Minister and his cabinet for giving his group the opportunity to explore and reference themselves to Christopher Columbus.
By expressing our sincere thanks on behalf of the Technical Working Group, Grenada's Hydrocarbon Technical Working Group, expressing our thanks to the Prime Minister and his cabinet for giving us what we consider to be a very, very exciting opportunity, an opportunity to explore. Not very many people get the opportunity to explore. Christopher Columbus was a very fortunate man, and today we feel as excited as he perhaps felt back in 1492.
I don't know of anyone who would like to reference themselves to Christopher Columbus in this day and age. What we were told, Christopher Columbus was a damn blasted liar. Please excuse me, I think it's funny. I think it's really funny. The theme, getting to know our true potential and doing something about it. Getting off the ground, Mr. Burke spoke of Grenada needing resources and that different administrations trying to diversify from the norm, tourism, agriculture, I suppose, and try their hand elsewhere.
And so there is a desire to do something about it. Grenada needs resources in order to develop. We cannot develop without resources. And because these governments that have run the country realize this problem, they have tried many different things. They've tried offshore banking. That has failed. They've tried informatics. That has failed. There was a first try at what we call the Citizenship by Investment Program back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. That failed when 9/11 occurred. Now we have a very vibrant, dynamic, and successful CBI program, but that too has its vulnerabilities because the bigger countries, especially Europe and North America, they continue to hold a hammer over our heads, in a manner of speaking, because they too are concerned, either because they are losing income when the rich people leave their country and come to these parts, or because they are concerned about criminals and crimes coming at their doorsteps.
And I quote, "Now we have a very vibrant, dynamic, and successful CBI program." End of quote. This from the same individual who said publicly, as political leader of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC administration, will scrap the NNP CBI program if given the chance to govern.
And we wish to take this opportunity today to make it very clear that an NDC administration would put an end to the sale of the Grenadian passport, and we will scrap the NNP CBI program. We will scrap the NNP CBI program. This program, as we see it, is not in our best interest in the way that it is being administered. We must make it absolutely clear that as far as we are concerned, the Grenada passport is not a commodity. It's an instrument of national identity. And what must be happening is that our government should be acting as the custodians of our passport, not as the merchants of our.
This is the same NNP CBI program with no amendments that the said Mr. Burke is using adjectives like vibrant, dynamic, and successful to describe today. Of course, he is now an agent selling passports of the said CBI program that he was going to scrap, right? And so money's in the bank, ching, ching, ching. To him, it's a successful program now. But of course, this is the said Mr. Burke who claimed while in opposition as leader of the NDC that our passport was being sold like fish cake by the side of the streets. Today, with no amendment to that program, none whatsoever, our passports are being sold even more. In fact, factual data suggests since the change of government in June 2022 to date, over 8,000 people have been granted Grenada citizenship by investment by our cabinet. From January to June 2024, from January to June 2024, the cabinet approved 3,034 citizens by investment passports. From January to December of 2023, the amount was 4,000. 764 citizens received passports, with 714 from July to December 2022. A total of 8,512 citizens. Under the former administration, the New National Party, from 2014, when the inception of the CBI program, 2014, June, 2014 to June 2022, the government approved 7,472 passports, less than the amount that this administration has issued over the last 2.5 years. 7,472 new citizens by the NNP in 8 years. In 8 years. This administration sold more passports in 2 years than the NNP did in 8 years. 1,040 passports more they sold in 2 years, I'm going to stress, than the NNP did in 8 years. New, vibrant, successful. Be careful, little mouse, what you say. Today, our passports are sold out there like rum. And what did the minister, it said the leader of government business in the house, that ain't no color. They're selling for anybody and everybody who wants. Jack by the side of the road. Jacks. The chairman of the technical working group, Nazimberg, continued with his delivery. Through all the different diversification, one of the most important things that should have been tried was oil and gas development.
And while all these different things have been tried, one of the most important things that could have been tried has not been tried. That is to say, our potential for oil and gas development. Grenada sits in a very, very unique and fortunate position. Grenada's neighbors are Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, Guyana, yes, countries with which Grenada shares a single continental shelf. And these countries that I mentioned earlier are all countries with proven hydrocarbon reserves. Many seismic studies, and when I say seismic here, I'm talking about the scans that are done in the sea, in the oceans, to see whether or not there's oil and gas potential, done by seismic ships that do scans. Many seismic studies have been done in Grenada's waters, and each of these scans would tend to suggest that Grenada may have, and I say may have potential commercially significant hydrocarbon deposits. And while all these things have been going on, we have not managed to do very much about it. Grenada, as it presently stands, must have something. I believe that.
You see, not very much was done because the NDC administration of 2008 to 13 totally ignored it because they wanted to have nothing to do with GPG. He continued to speak on what he termed setbacks, the Grindberg saga, and the Global Petroleum Group, GPG. Let's hear him on the Grindberg saga.
In 1996, the then government of Grenada entered into a contract with an oil speculator from Texas, a company known as RSM Corporation, led by an oil speculator Jack Greinberg, a man who was basically buying maritime space, getting licenses, and then trying to sell it out to other people, speculating basically, came in and was able to purchase all of Grenada's maritime acreage, over 26,000 square kilometers of water, was able to get a license to explore all of Grenada's maritime acreage for $19,000 US a year. That is about $1,500, just a little more than $1,500 US a month. If you think about it, the students at St. George's University who are renting one-bedroom apartments are paying about $1,500 a month. So what a student is paying here for 1 year to rent an apartment is what Grenada was getting in return for its entire maritime acreage. And when the government realized that they'd made a very serious blunder, they walked away from the contract. The gentleman, of course, took them to court because he's one of those people who love the courthouse. Always have 20, 30 lawsuits going on at the same time. So he sued the government, or at least took them to arbitration in the United States. And of course, the government of Grenada had to pay US lawyers to represent them, spending literally millions of dollars to defend the case. While that case was going on, the government entered into a second contract. Before that case could be finished, the government entered into a second contract in which a Russian company came and said, listen, we are prepared to take over this license, but what we want you to do is agree that you will give us 11 blocks, and we in turn will pay for the lawsuit. We will pay $2.5 million US for the lawsuit. They paid $1.9 million as far as we know. The lawsuit was finally, when the government changed in 2008, the lawsuit was finally won by us, and the gentleman walked away. That company, the Russian company, the Global Petroleum Group, as we know them, that company entered into the contract, and not very much happened, frankly, between 2008 and 2013 as far as that relationship was concerned.
Now, all the rant and rave about the cost and the SGU student monthly payments, rah, rah, rah. According to the Petroleum and Natural Gas Deposit Regulations, SRO of 2007, 23rd November 2007, Part 1, there is in there set regulations, set fees here, right? For the different things to do with oil and gas. License, exploration license for the block, per block is 5,000 USD, 5,000, right? Applications for removal of explorer's license, 2,500 USD. The permit, 5,000. Everything is listed here, and it was done by law. It was done by law. So it's not like they just decided what they're going to do. I don't know who made the laws, but it was done by law. Okay? So what Mr. Burke failed to mention, though, is that the NDC had absolutely nothing to do with the Greinberg case. He spoke there about when we came into office, when we won the case, right? When we came into office. I would like to know, and I would like Mr. Burke to tell the nation, who is the we he spoke of that won this case? He slipped it in nicely, quickly, and we won the case and he moved on. Who is the we that won that case? It baffles me how you all take Grenadians for fools, that you can say anything and we will swallow it up. And I know there are those who would swallow it up, even knowing the truth, because there are NDC persons who listened to you there and going along with it, knowing, because if I know, because I was a part of the NDC then, and I know, and I heard it with my own ears, when you said that you all are not going to spend the country's resources defending Gregory Boeing. Grindberg came to the Caribbean in 1971. A number of Caribbean islands signed up with Grindberg. He had his standard and he had his thing going. It wasn't only Grenada. But Grenada sought him out for who he was. Grindberg was no oil and gas guru. Grindberg was a speculator. But there were other countries who also wanted to get out of the deal. They didn't know how. Grenada took the first step. NMP won the elections in 1995. In 1996, Grenada signed on with Grindberg. Grindberg was given an exploration license, which is valid for 5 years. As mentioned, Grindberg was a speculator. Now, a speculator is someone that takes on relatively high risk, often buying and selling assets. You buy and you sell over. Once it became clear that Grindberg was not an oil and gas businessman, but a speculator, the then government, the NNP administration, broke the contract with Grindberg. Of course, you know what happens when you break contracts like that. So Grindberg decided to sue the then Minister of Energy, Gregory Boeing, and the government of Grenada. In 2003, we entered arbitration with Grindberg, and this also sold exploration rights to GPG, the Global Petroleum Group. In 2008, the NDC won the election, and the then Tillman Thomas-led NDC government, with Nazim Burke as Minister of Finance and Energy, blatantly refused to, as they said, use government resources to defend Gregory Boeing. But it was a case in one. Grindberg sued Gregory Boeing and the government of Grenada in one, right? The results were delivered between 2008 and 2009. And Gregory Boeing and the government of Grenada won the case. Who's the we, Mr. Burke? When you all had nothing to do with it. Well, maybe to say we as the government, but you didn't spend any money. The government of Grenada did not spend money defending Gregory Boeing. So who's the we? Now, we saw no slide showing any contract between Grindberg and or not GPG and the government of Grenada. Chairman Burke spoke of Global Petroleum Group offering to pay 2.5 million USD in legal fees in exchange for 11 blocks to explode. Okay. So, Mr. Burke, where's that contract? Where is that signed agreement of the 2.5 million US dollars you spoke about? You said they paid 1.9 million USD. Well, probably that was what the total cost of legal fees was. So that is what they paid. Now, in 2008, NDC administration wanted nothing to do with Grindberg nor GPG. Now, the 2008 NDC administration wanted nothing to do with Grindberg nor GPG. And the arbitration brought to us by Grindberg. So how is it you're claiming that the reason you did not do business with GPG during the 2008 to 13 reign was because you didn't get all of the money, the 2.5 million USD That's the reason why you want to know where the money is. That's why you didn't do any business. That's a lie. Again, was there a signed contract between the government of Grenada and GPG and the 2.5 million USD? You said you wanted to have nothing to do with GPG. Or did your government, Mr. Buck, through you, tried to frustrate the GPG? You, as Minister of Energy, tried to frustrate the GPG, the Global Petroleum Group, waiting and hoping that the exploration license, which is for 5 years, was expired. And then you just get rid of them, which you can, if their license expired and nothing substantial was done, that you can just get rid of them. But in truth and in fact, what happened was you, the NDC administration, expired before the GPG license. You see, they always say when you dig in hole for someone, dig one for yourself. You lost the license, the elections in 2013 before GPG's license expired. Let's hear you on the 2.5 million saga.
Because the government took the position that until and unless there was evidence that the $2.5 million had been paid in full, they were not going to do business with the Russian company.
That's a lie. That's a big lie. Then shortly after 2013 election, when GPG exploration license expired, they were granted a development license which has a lifetime of 20 years. So believe it or not, we stuck with GPG for a while. And you might as well engage them. You might as well engage them. Now, Nazareth was part of an administration who refused to deal with GPG. In fact, he was the Minister of Energy or Petroleum, if you so to speak. Today, he is the chairman of the technical working group who's still not interested in working along with GPG. The Russians, as they referred to them, hardly ever say, calling their name, Global Petroleum Group. Now, the Global Petroleum Group has already paid 80 million EC dollars into the consolidated fund through the Treasury, legitimately doing so. And that's besides what they spent on whatever drilling they have done, the mapping and all the traveling, whatever monies they spent so far. That is besides that. 80 million EC dollars went into our treasury, our consolidated fund, coming from GPG, right? They had an office here at one point. They employed 10 people in that office. It is clear that the NDC administration is still stalling. And GPG has probably at least maybe 10 years left, because if we're not counting all the stalling and all the ignoring, because they have not been in communication, or the government of Grenada has not been willing to communicate with them. At least 8 years we still have, if we check in, month, year by year, on their license. And if the NDC administration continue the way they go, we just might end up with another WRB situation. Because it is clear, and according to Mr. Burke, they are already engaging other experts.
I want to say something quickly on the work of the technical working group. The next slide will show you very quickly what these are just some of the things that I want to mention. One is the recruitment of experts. So that so far we've recruited legal experts, we've recruited technical experts, we've recruited a lead consultant who's driving that entire process. And you would see that there is yet some recruitment work to be done in terms of the commercial side of things, in terms of the reservoir engineers, the petroleum engineers. But so far we have put together, the lead consultant is a company, it's not a person. The lead consultant is a consulting company, and inside of that company they have all kinds of expertise across the spectrum that can work and advise. So we're getting the widest and broadest range of advice in that regard.
Now at the town hall, one such expert was strategically positioned to speak out of the audience.
Good evening. First, I'd like to salute the committee on an excellent report, very lucid, very well thought out, and it has a number of milestones that if we execute will do well for Grenada. Second, I'm one of those technical professionals that Mr. Burke was talking about. I have over 30 years experience in the oil and gas business on the exploration and production side with one of the largest oil companies in the world. And there need to be more people like me that look like me here in Grenada, putting Grenada first. And so I applaud you on that. You made a very good point that the country, Grenada, owns the documents and the data that is gathered out in Grenada's waters. And a kind of detailed question, but how transparent of a window does the country have into GPG's plans, what they've done, and what they know? Because the government has the total right to know what they know and to approve what they plan to do whenever and how they plan to do it. And thank you again to the committee.
Thank you. We have a question, Chairman?
The issue with the Global Petroleum Group is a difficult one, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, if you have a contract with someone, then you want to carry out the terms of the contract, but you need to know exactly what the contract says, you know, so you know what your rights are, what your duties are. And what we, part of the delay that we have suffered, I think, or experienced, is because the information was not readily available, yeah. But we have made progress, and we are actively engaged. Things are not moving as quickly as we would like, but it is moving. And as I said earlier, Grenada is not going to wait. The Prime Minister is not prepared to wait. And as they see, we're marching.
And that's another lie. GPG has been trying. They tried between 2008 to 13. And now again, since this NDC administration came into office, mere weeks later, GPG tried and tried. They contacted this administration at different levels. They've been trying to reach the Prime Minister. They've been offering to bring what they have, to sit down, and they've been ignored. According to Mr. Burke, plenty more experts are needed to carry out preliminary work.
Sisters and brothers, it's a big task. We've thrown up on the screen an organogram, just to give you a very quick sense of how developed and complex this can be. At the head of that matrix organogram, you see the technical working group. Below that, you have the lead technical consultant. We must hire a number of experts to help us. Even though we are working as a team, a small team, we are not experts in oil and gas. We know very little about oil and gas. Our business is to get the people who know about oil and gas and get them to work for us to do what needs to be done. So we have a lead consultant, We have a program control manager. That's the person who is going to monitor and evaluate as we go forward. We have deadlines. The cabinet has given us deadlines. They said, look, in the first instance, get this done. Tell us what's going on in 12 months. And if you can't do it in 12 months, come back to us and we'll give you an extension. So, but somebody must monitor among us what our deadlines are, how we go in, whether we're meeting our targets and deadlines, and keep moving forward. We also have to get help in recruiting experts, because I can't just say, well, that person is a hydrocarbon expert or a petroleum engineer, I'm going to hire him. We have to get people who know who are the people who know. And in that way, they help us to select the right people. Legal people, good lawyers, good petroleum lawyers we need. You see legal there. We need people to help us resolve the contracts that we have. We need people to help us develop the legal system and the laws that we have. We need ongoing legal support. We need people to help us to delimit our boundaries. Although we are finished with Trinidad, we've not done that with St. Vincent, we've not done it with Venezuela, and you can't think about it. If you have a piece of land, you can't say you leasing it out to somebody and you know where your boundaries are. So you must determine where are your boundaries. And although we've done that with Trinidad, we have not yet done it with St. Vincent or Venezuela, and we need to do that as part of this mandate. So boundary delimitation is an important step in the work of the technical working group. You see the technical heading there, and that is for the geological and geophysical works. These are the people who will do the seismic work, all of the scans that will be done. These are the people who, the data management, data protection and licensing. These are the people who would collect all that seismic data, ensure that it is interpreted, see what it means, see what potential it has, and talk to the oil companies who will say, I want to license this block, or I want to rent out this block to explore it, and pay a fee to get the block and begin to explore it. And if there is something there, develop it in partnership with the government. So that is very important. You need commercial people. People whose business it is, whose knowledge it is, whose expertise it is to work with the commercial partners.
The question is, where are we getting the monies to pay these experts? The government just presented their 2025 budget, and there were no estimates or allocation in that presentation towards oil and gas. They've presented a deficit budget and is struggling to get monies borrowed to support, to finance that budget. The $825 million loan needed, they are struggling to get that money financed. So, are they coming back to us with a supplementary budget, or all of this is just grand move? You know, they're saying something, they're saying they're doing something, and to fool the people into believing they are serious about oil and gas. And so they come and they corralled you down there to the trade center, right? With this big fanfare. And then what? And then what? Now, in the 2025 budget presentation, we have budgeted for Project Polaris, the hospital project, in excess of $400 million to be borrowed. That's half out of the $825 million. Half of that was to go to Project Polaris. I don't know if most of you understood that, right? Which we're breaking ground in 2026. So you've allocated, you've estimated for a project that is breaking ground, or should I say might break ground in 2026. And oil and gas, mere weeks later, you down at the trade center, speaking about oil and gas in a big way, speaking of experts, some of which you have already engaged, speaking of the Prime Minister that will not wait, and not 1 cent in the 2025 budget. We're in 2025. You speak in oil and gas now, mere weeks later, and not 1 cent allocated for oil and gas. Who all you fooling? Who all you think all you fooling? But lest we forget, our Prime Minister and Minister for Climate Resilience, well, on the environment, renewable energy, Karine Z. James, their government is not interested in oil and gas. They're interested in alternative energy. And they said so. They've said so many times. In his presentation, the chairman Nazim Burke spoke to what oil and gas could mean to our people, its challenges. Came out it.
We must say that while this potential exists for Grenada, it is not without its challenges and its difficulties. There are genuine concerns that if Grenada were to get into oil and gas at this point, then it can affect our maritime system, or you might say our pristine marine ecosystem. We are concerned about the environment. There are concerns about tourism and how it's going to affect tourism. There are concerns about fishing and how it's going to affect fishing. There are concerns that if Grenada were to get oil and gas, some people may get rich and other people may still suffer because you don't have an equal or even distribution of the wealth that comes from the oil and gas. There are concerns also that we may suffer from what is called the Dutch disease. So much money that you don't know what to do, you turn almost stupid in trying to handle and manage the money. So there are concerns about how we will manage oil and gas if it came to that. But despite these challenges, we believe it is still important to explore and exploit. We live in an age that we consider to be the age of green development. Climate change is important. Protection of the environment is important. To develop in a sustainable and responsible way is important. We support climate change. We support green development. We support the development of a low-carbon economy. The question that we must confront is, how are we going to finance that development? Green development must be financed. The money must come from somewhere. You can't just say, I'm going to set up a solar farm, or I'm going to only use electric vehicles from now on. Somebody has to pay for it. And the challenge of finding money to pay for green development is a very serious challenge. If we were able to find oil and gas, then of course we would be able to use some of the monies that we obtain from the oil and gas development to be able to finance our economy in a low carbon and sustainable way.
So oil and gas is a means to an end, really. And we got to the point, the green development, low carbon economy, right? We've gotten to that point. I was waiting for that, to hear that, because that's what they're interested in, really. And we have all these concerns. You've heard him. Equal distribution of wealth. Some people stay poor and some people will get richer. He has not said how they would address these concerns. But we're moving on. We have to get the oil and gas so we can pay for the green development. Now that making sense? Let me hear if that makes any sense to you guys. So only reason for developing our oil and gas is to fund and finance the green development, the alternative energy, low carbon economy. When St. Kitts gave every Kittitian $5,000 out of their CBI profit, right? We're still talking about if we get gas, some will get poor, some will be rich, and some will be poor. St. Kitts. Now, That is an achievement. One can only speak of achievements when the greatest percentage of their people have benefited. We have concerns that most of us would not be benefiting from the oil and gas. The Dutch disease. So much money that we get stupid. The fact is, our government do not really want to explore and exploit. And that is just this corral of people down to the trade center. It's just another way of looking for a feel-good moment from the NDC so that they could call an election and look for another mandate. They've been trying their best. Of course, the budget was a bust budget, so that nobody takes it on, because I've never seen an administration read a budget and immediately after it's going through the country, media stations to media station, trying to explain their budget. I've never seen that. Although we never had a wrap-up because we understood what happened at the end. We've never had a wrap-up of the budget. The Prime Minister stated budget is a people's budget. Where in that budget you've seen benefits for the people? When capital expenditure was way below recurrent expenditure. Now, any benefit for the people comes from capital expenditure. There was not one capital project announced in that budget. Where the jobs coming from? If you want to start to help your people, they need jobs. Where are the jobs coming from? When there's there was not one capital project announced in the budget, but it was a people's budget, he said. Which part of it? Which part of it? So we know that they do not really want to explore or exploit oil and gas, and that it's all about green development. In fact, the chairman did admit the drilling is to help finance the green development. You've heard it. He spoke of how the technical working group was established. And it was through the wisdom of the Prime Minister. Now, I smile because hearing that from Mr. Burke, for this wisdom of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell makes me smile. Just bring back memories of stories I've heard and pronouncements and that was made. And they said ungratefulness is worse than opium. But I'll put hypocrisy right up there with ungratefulness. It had to be worse than opium. Let's hear our Prime Minister and his wisdom.
It is against this background that the Prime Minister in his wisdom decided it is important for us to look into Grenada's potential. See whether or not we have it, and if we have it, let's do something about it. And in his wisdom, the Prime Minister established the Grenada's Hydrocarbon Technical Working Group.
Is that right? In his wisdom, the Prime Minister established the Technical Working Group. Folks, lest we forget, the Governor General, in her throne speech, told us why the Technical Working Group was established.
To this end, my government has established a technical working group chaired by a past Minister for Finance, Mr. Nazim Burke, and comprised of distinguished Grenadians, including Mr. Rodney George, Mr. Richard Duncan, Mr. Raymond Nurse, and the Office of the Attorney General, represented by the Solicitor General, to investigate and to do what it takes to demystify our oil and gas situation.
Now, the Governor General was correct, because that's what we were told by her or through her, coming from the cabinet, the Prime Minister and his cabinet. We were not mistaken. We were not mistaken. That is what the Governor General said in the 2023 throne speech, prepared by the Prime Minister and his cabinet. But it seems like somewhere along the way, hydrocarbon was hung on to the name, the technical working group, and again, metamorphosis took place, and there was a name and a function change to the group. Nothing new, by the way, with this administration. But we aren't no fools. So don't take us for fools. This group took 2 years to come back to us. And today, we are still sneakingly told that some files are still missing.
When this started, there were those who were of the mistaken impression that this was a kind of investigative body to see who did what and arrest a few people and so on. Because I would meet people in town and they ask me, well, what's going on? We ain't not, nobody ain't get arrested yet. And you have to say to them, this is not about arresting people. This is about arresting the oil and gas in the ground and bringing it up so we can do. There was a challenge, I think most of you would know that when this government came in, many of the documents that would assist the government in determining in a very clear way what were its rights and obligations were simply not available. Documents, the government's files could not be found. And we are still struggling with documentation. We have been able, with the help of people here at home and abroad, to pull together many of the critical documents, but there are also important documents that we have not had sight of, that we've heard about, but not had sight of.
Not true. Not true. First of all, within 1 month of coming into office in June of 2022, the government was contacted by GPG and offered a debriefing and all documents related to our oil and gas. They were ignored. Then, after the infamous throne speech, where the technical working group was put together to investigate the missing files, headed by V. Nazem Burke and assisted by Rodney George, Richard Duncan, Raymond Nuss, and the Solicitor General of the Attorney General's office. According to Mr. Gregory Bowen, former Minister of Energy, after a few months, the Prime Minister called him in to assist in locating the documents.
The Prime Minister, Honorable Dick Mitchell, called me after, I don't know if some positive or respectable person in Grenada or in the region spoke to him, but he called me. So when I went down into his office, I said to him, I see that you are looking for my input into the development of the oil and gas sector. He said, no, we have not reached that stage as yet. So I looked surprised. I said, so why call me? He said, I called you for assistance with finding the lost documents. I said, oh. I made it clear to him then that he had done significant damage to my character. He had placed great distress on my family. Because here it is, a minister leaving will destroy documents and so forth. He indicated to me that was not his intention. And if that was how I felt, he apologized for it. And I insinuated that of course, but the public should know that. And I asked him, I said, well, I would help. Two things you must do is authorize me to speak with the former secretary. She was in the Ministry of Works, and she followed me across to the Ministry of Finance. I said, let me speak with her. But they must know that is not an outgoing minister coming to talk to them. He said, yes, yes, you can indicate to them that you have discussed with me. I say it would be even better if you call them. He said, if it's necessary, if you speak to them and they need to talk to me, I am here. So I called my secretary, former secretary, and asked her about the files and documents. As a minister, they bring things to you. You know that they're in a cabinet, but you don't know if they're the top drawer, the bottom drawer, etc. And she indicated to, I say, call the person we moved from the Ministry of Works into the Ministry of Finance, and a lot of the documents are in the Ministry of Works. So I say, call the secretary there and tell her exactly where and how to look for this thing. And I say, you can call, tell her she can call the Prime Minister, who at that point in time was a boss, and he will tell her, yes, she can do exactly as I indicated. So I went, after that, things went on. I did not hear from him. I called, I did not get a response. I called his secretary, exactly what secretary she is, but Miss Lissy, and she promised that he'll get back to me. A good while after, he got back to me, only to tell me that they found the documents. So I asked where. He said, in the ministry, well secured in a cabinet, a normal cabinet where documents are. The only thing that they could not find was the key. But I say you could have asked the secretary who moved with me about the key. She would have had it wrong, and perhaps she did not leave it with the other one. He said, no, we didn't even have to waste time to do that. We just broke open the drawer. I said, fine, you can do that. You can repair it if you want to use it and yet. And he said he found all the documents. But before that, I had spoken to the licensee, the former GPG, who told me that he had sent all the documents over to his office. But he told me at the meeting that he did not receive it. So I asked and indicated to him the three most important pieces of documents that your group will need to go through. And I got those from the licensee and I sent it to him. So he had a significant amount of documents before finding the documents. So I expected, as I told him, that the whole world, not only Grenada, the whole world. For example, let me give you a scenario. What was read by the Governor General? There are institutions throughout the world that would be looking for Gregory Bowen, right? To come to say, a 2-year contract here, this year contract there. But after the Governor General read that, you would never see that happening. So the damage was terrible. Now, he did not come out to tell the Grenadians that he found the document, and I.
So, with the help of the former Minister of Energy, Gregory Bowen, and his secretary, who is still a public officer, the Prime Minister found the so-called missing documents. All of it. All of it. There's also Mr. John O'Geefe out there, who was the officer in charge of the Ministry of Energy, who knew everything from both administrations, actually, the NNP and the NDC when they came in 2013. I think he's since retired, but he's out there alive and well. That he can be also could have been contacted. But no, the Prime Minister had to go out and say, we found no documents, and if the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, and anybody from his administration know where the documents, with his arrogance. You see, when they got into office, before transitioning, they shuffled and move about the permanent secretary And so they didn't have people in the same ministries to help them. But of course, they're still in the ministerial complex or under the government of Grenada, wherever their office might be, if it's in the financial complex, wherever. That's the question. But after the horse done gallop down the road, then they run and they close the stable. Now, after the Prime Minister, through the Governor General, made his red herring statement, that's when he called on the former minister to ask about the documents. The horse done galloping down the road. Hurry, hurry, close the stable. For what? Just make that make sense. So you came to a conclusion before exploring all options. Let me add here that Global Petroleum Group, GPG, let me say again here that Global Petroleum Group, GPG, was trying to meet or communicate with this administration since coming into office. They tried to engage the Prime Minister. They tried to engage other officers within the government since July 2023 with no avail. And that remained so until the last quarter of 2023. This after GPG tried contacting them through correspondence in excess of 20 times. The Prime Minister never came back to the people to say that the documents was found, neither did his technical working group. Folks, oil and gas continues to be a ball of confusion. Mixed messages are coming from Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and his technical working group. The Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, after months of ignoring GPG, invited them to Grenada to meet with him and his technical working group, I assume. GPG tried and tried and tried again to get the attention. Now, at the end of November in 2024, they were invited, as I said, by the Prime Minister. They came here and the Prime Minister met with them briefly and passed them on to this new group that was formed, a three-man group, chaired by Richard Duncan this time, and the two other being Nazim Burke and Rodney George. The meeting was cordial with some reassuring statements, which now seem like empty commitments in a private meeting, despite holding out to GPG that the government was ready to make a public statement. On Tuesday, the 3rd of December 2024, the day of the scheduled meeting, there was an agreed draft released. Agreed draft release. There's an agreed draft. Oh, God. Okay. On Tuesday, the 3rd of December 2024, the day of the scheduled meeting, there was an agreed draft release. Agreed by both parties, prepared before GPG even came to Grenada. Both sides created the draft statement together, negotiated before GPG got on the plane. The question is, what happened to that release? It was never released. What is our Prime Minister holding out for? Why wasn't that agreed draft released to the people of Grenada? So, to date, nothing coming from the Prime Minister nor his government on the visit of Global Petroleum to Grenada in the last quarter of 2024. Now this, and nothing from the technical working group either. In closing his presentation, Chairman Nazimberg outlined what he termed urgent priorities.
Getting the data from Trinidad and Tobago, getting the data from the seismic companies, entering into the revenue sharing agreements that I spoke about, work towards the bid rounds over the next 18 months, identify and recruit suitable people, Grenadians here in Grenada, Grenadians in the diaspora, as well as other people, non-Grenadians. We were thinking, for example, that a place like Trinidad and Tobago, their industry, the oil company, the national gas company, heritage company, ministry officials, all of whom have turned, let's say, 65, are no longer working, were in the industry, knows the industry very well, may just want to come to Grenada and take a stint for 2 years and help us. Yeah, they're not looking for full-time, long-term employment, but they know that they can get home in half an hour and they wouldn't mind coming and enjoy some of the food and beauty of our island. Yeah? So there are opportunities there and we need to...
He spoke of urgent priorities, you know. Nothing about engaging GPG. Nothing about engaging GPG. He also outlined the critical success factors according to the technical working group.
I want to close with one final slide, and that is a slide that addresses what are the critical success factors. What are we going to have to do? What would we need to do if we are going to succeed? This list is not exhaustive, but I list here 4 things that I would like to close with. One is a united nationwide effort to find out once and for all if we have oil. It must not be the government's task, it must be our task collectively because of the impact it can have on our country. Long-term impact on our country. It can transform the country. And so we must together take a pledge that we're going to do all that is necessary to ensure that we know exactly what we have and do something about it. The second commitment, the second success factor is to put Grenada first in all that we do. If the members of the technical working group are looking to get money under the table from oil companies, and the oil companies have them in their pocket, they would not be thinking of Grenada first, they would be thinking about themselves first. If ministers of government were to be induced into that situation, they'll be thinking about themselves first, not Grenada first. So it's very important that all of us think about this, and in everything that we do and in everything that we say about the oil and gas. Don't be driven by personal ambitions, but be driven by long-term desire to see our country a better country. And I want to say that I want to encourage everyone to commit to that as well. Thirdly, we must have open, transparent communications between the government and the people. Not just open and transparent, but honest. We must not come and tell you we find gas or we find oil the day before the elections because we want to win the elections. We must not give you false hope. We must not play games on an issue like this. If we find it, we find it. If we don't find it, we don't find it. And if we're doing this collectively, the government cannot be hiding documents and signing contracts behind your back and nobody knows what's happening. There must be an honest exchange and dialogue, because that is the only way the government is going to be able to bring the people along with them to transform the country. Open, honest, transparent communication between the government and the people. And the fourth measure, I call it patience. Tempered expectations. It is absolutely important that we all appreciate this is not something that can happen overnight. As much as we all want to see it happen, it takes time. we were asking the experts, between the day that you discover that there's something in the ground and the day that you pull it out of the ground, how much time are we talking about realistically? They said between 4 and 6 years. That is how much work it takes to bring it to the surface. Yeah? So it takes time, because after you do the exploration well, where you say we find something, yes, that is usually done. First they do the scans. They do what is called a two-dimensional scan or a survey. If they see something there, then they do a three-dimensional scan, and they go down and drill to find the location. And then after that, they drill. Yes, after they drill and they say, yes, we see something that's commercially viable, then and only then you start talking about appraisal, knowing what is there in what quantities and quality and so on, and then a development plan to get it out of the ground. So it takes time. And so be patient with your government. Don't be too harsh. Don't be too demanding. If 6 months from now you see nothing happen, don't say, well, boy, all you get in oil and gas and we see nothing at all and so on. Work with us. Let it happen collectively. A single mission by a single country. Remember your slogan: one nation, one journey, one future.
Now, we know that one of their mantras is money under the table. And not just under the table. With them, they're so blatant. It's money on top of the table too. It's anywhere. We just grabbing, we just dipping, we just taking. So, Mr. Burke putting that in there as a joke, it's not a joke. It's not funny. It's for real. This is what we are witnessing. Right? Then he spoke about open and transparent with this administration. Being open and transparent with the people. When? First of all, very early, the Prime Minister said to us that they will come to us on a need-to-know basis. And they have, that has materialized throughout. They don't tell us anything. They have not been transparent with the people. Transparency and accountability went through the window. Interestingly, they are asking you, the people, for a 4 to 6 years to be patient with your government. 4 to 6 years, you know. They're almost, well, we know that they're trying to call the elections anytime. As I said, they're looking for a feel-good moment. They're only in meet up on one yet. And I think they're trying to do it with the houses. Now everybody getting a Build Back Better house. I think that's what they're trying to get it with this time. But we'll find out. At the end of the day, we'll find out. 4 to 6 years. Be patient with your government. That too, like Project Polaris. Project Polaris is never ending, you know. It's going to take us about 50 years to see what Project Polaris is really about. Prime Minister been asking for one government, one people, support one government, really. And if you don't, you're going to starve. Practically. So, give them some time with Project Polaris and the oil and gas. 4 to 6 years. 4 to 6 years from now could mean 3 elections, you know. We have one coming anytime now. 6 years could give us another 2 elections. Right? I say government is a continuum. And that is all I say on that matter. You're big people, you understand. Any government could drill for oil, and any government could build a new hospital. Yeah? If everything is in place to execute, no problem. Government is a continuum. That's right. And then there was the question and answer segment. First one up, well placed. We will have patience with our government.
Mr. Buck, I sit here this afternoon and I hear a lot really concerning this oil. And I really want to thank this government for enlightening us about oil. We come here and we listen, and there's a lot of work to do. And it's good to be honest with your people. When you're honest with your people, you will get them to have confidence in you. Because I remember a few days before election, thank God you don't drag us as big people and children to come and tell us you find oil. So I'm so happy to know that we have a government that will be honest with his people. So thank you for being honest with us and letting us know. So if 6 months come and we ain't find oil, as you relate, that you ask them people and they tell you it could take 6 years. So we don't have to be mad and beat up on you and say you lie to us. So we sit here and we listen to you, and we will have patience with our government.
Yes, we would have patience with the government. And Andrew said they don't give timeline, eh? 6 years in retail. 6 years. Sit down and wait for 6 years. There was nothing on it about that town hall, Miss Lady. Honestly, there was nothing honest coming from that presentation from the chairman of the working group, Mr. Nazimbo. There's nothing honest about that town hall. Folks, our Prime Minister and his government once again psychologically manipulated the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique in their so-called oil and gas presentation. They gaslighted us one more time. Do we have oil and gas or not? And I'll send you to Google gaslighting. It's actually a word. Go Google gaslighting. Write it down. Have the kids go Google gaslighting. And you'll understand why I use that term there. So I had closed off this whole section on oil and gas. And then speaking to someone on another matter was asked, did you see the Prime Minister's interview on Boss FM? So I said no, because actually it's too much, huh? To follow them is really too much. He was on Boss FM on Tuesday, the 1st of April. What a date. What a date for him to do that interview, living up to the tradition of tomfoolery, tomfooling the people. Only it's a nation. It's not when you're in class, you're in school, and you fool the teacher. I mean, I remember us getting licks at the convent for tomfooling a teacher, actually. But you do it with your friends, and they say we took it too far because we can't fool a teacher. And now you, Prime Minister, and your administration have a nation you will continue to take for fools. This is no joke. So the emperor strikes again. Let me share with you a clip of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell on Boss FM when asked the question about our oil and gas.
So as was presented last week at the town hall, basically where we are is we've put together a team of Grenadians. Their mandate really is to retain
oil and gas is a highly technical and sophisticated business. So their mandate is to basically hire the experts that will be able to guide us to assess exactly what, if anything, Grenada has, right? So, and it's mostly ocean, right? It's not land. It's all sea. So basically, you have what is called Grenada's exclusive economic zone, which is the ocean immediately around Grenada. Because most of our neighbors to the south, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, clearly have oil and gas. I think we've historically always suspected that we may have.
Okay.
But the question about oil and gas is not whether you have, is whether you have it in sufficient quantities that you can actually exploit it, because it's very, very expensive to explore and drill the wells, because you have to do so in the sea, beneath the sea surface, and you have to be able to get this up safely and then get it in large enough quantities that you can actually sell it and make a return. So it's estimated that one well, for example, costs $100 million. US,
okay.
Right? So the truth is, you have to be able to know if there's sufficient gas or oil beneath the surface that is valued, say, at 600 or 700 million US, for you to run the risk of making that 100 million US, because nobody wants to put 100 million US into the ground and get nothing in return.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you know for sure? And that's where it becomes tricky, because they have to do these 2D and 3D seismic data analysis, and then you have to get experts to read it and basically make an informed guess. And then someone has to be prepared to put in that 100 million or that 200 million into the seabed, do the drilling, then look at the quantities, then do a further well, which is called an appraisal well, and then someone says to you, yes, you have sufficient quantity. So what we are trying to do is essentially get to the point where we can get all of that data.
Okay.
Right? And let me just talk about the data. We would not have had the technical or scientific capacity to create that data. So there are international firms who have the equipment to do the 3D seismic surveys and so on. And so when I talked about us not having files, this is the kinds of stuff that we're talking about. I'm not talking here files about just some letters between us and people.
Okay.
I'm talking about all of the data on Grenada's exclusive economic zone that will put us in a position to know, for example, how much pieces of data we have, how many seismic research studies do we have? Do we have 10 2Ds? Do we have 5 3Ds? Who's evaluated it? What were the reports?
Prime Minister, which part of the ministry you expected to find 3D files? Who did you ask for the data for the 3D file? And what was their response? By the way, why do you need the 3D files anyway, the diagrams? Why do you need it? Is the government involved in the development? How much money did the government of Grenada spend so far in whatever development took place with the oil and gas, with our oil and gas? Do you have any idea the size of the files you're talking about? You just mentioned that you were looking for. Did anyone brief you on such? Now remember, I told you about the three-man committee that met with GPG on the 3rd of December, 2024. Richard Duncan as chairman, Nazim Book, and Rodney George as the other 2 members. Well, at this meeting, Mr. Nazim Book asked the GPG members present about those files. And that was not the files the Prime Minister had the GG sweating about when they said they found no files. That's a lie. You were talking about the files that you eventually found in a cabinet in the ministry. Yes. Nothing about 3D files. You're lying again to the nation.